Yes, thank you. I thought it was working, but um, I think it's going now. Thank you.
All right. Orlando Ortiz. I am the president of the Puerto Rican Festival. And why did I say yes? Annette forced me to say yes. No, I'm just kidding. You know, with the festival being in the community for over 50 years here, I felt that this organization, you know, this committee was the right fit for our organization. I feel that our organization could certainly do more in this community than just put it on a festival. And you know, for many years, we've tried to do a little bit more every year in other events and exposing others to our culture. So, what do I hope to accomplish? Again, exposing others to our culture, and I feel this committee will allow us to do more than what we've done. You know, at least in the 20 years that I've been part of the festival. So, thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to doing some work here. And I will, let me see, we'll go with Blue.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'm Blue Cease. I'm the director of the Contemporary Arts Center on East Avenue, and I'm involved with a number of other art community things. We organized the First Friday website for all venues to be involved with. And over the years, we've organized Contemporary Art Biennial. And I've also been a part of the Rock Arts United, sort of a somewhat similar organization and effort that is underway. Hopefully a good collaborator and a good partner in this whole effort. Why did I say yes? I have to add my +1. If I didn't say yes, I knew that Annette would come and slap me silly if I didn't. So I would never, ever turn down an offer from Annette. And I think, you know, my vision, I'm not sure, like Thomas, I've been hoping to see something like this from the city specifically for many years. Along with a number of you, I've been a part of looking at other cities and other counties, but in this case, other cities. And so I guess maybe most directly and perhaps humbly, I would hope that Rochester can establish what many of our peer cities have and providing support and transparency and equitable support for artists and arts organizations as we see some of our peer cities doing. So that's pretty basic, but I guess that's my vision at this point. I'm happy to be here and look forward to working with you all and learning more about the vision here. Thanks. And I will pass to Olivia Kim.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm a local sculptor. I make figure sculpture, and you probably know about the Douglas sculptures that I've made. I just want to say hello to everybody because I didn't get a chance to say hi. It's very nice to be here. So my whole life has been dedicated to understanding all the arts from since I was a little kid, and with the purpose of understanding how humanity expresses itself. And alongside with all the arts, I've also had a great interest in the cultures of the world and traveling to as many countries as I can. I have to admit, I still haven't hit up Asia or Africa that well. I haven't gone to Africa yet. And my hope has been, especially growing up as a kid in the city of Rochester, was that if the organization can be such here in Rochester, that all these cultural voices can finally come out the way they're supposed to, Rochester can be a great cradle for all our various diversity, and not just diversity, but what is already here. Because I think that diversity almost sometimes overshadows the fact that, yes, we do have, as Thomas Warfield said, we have the indigenous peoples that were once here, but also before even the indigenous peoples, I'm sure there are more people living before that. So we have a long history of people in this area, and also a history that has yet to come. A history where there is so much integration. I know it's hard to believe, but eventually, I really do feel there's a dream of this America that will be able to integrate and also celebrate everybody's individuality. And the way we're changing is that I think we're becoming so much more exposed to each other that it's not so scary as it used to be. So my hope is that this council can help to promote original cultural programs so the peoples of America can revisit where their original cultural roots were, understand what those were, so that hopefully we can develop a new one. Because right now, the culture that is in place is consumerism. Consumerism and mass media, that has taken the place of people actually being able to relate to their intuitions. So I'd say public workshops even, that could be a great way to get the public to become much more familiar with what the arts are. So multiple programs, right? But my big thing is hopefully getting back to the original cultures, and then so that people can inspect what is the culture now. Okay, let me see. Antonietta, come on, my dance girl. She's my dance buddy. You're next.
Yay. All right.
I can speak for myself. Thank you. Yay. Hi, everyone. I'm Antonetta Alfano. I am so grateful to be a part of this committee, providing a deaf voice. And one of the things that I do, I'm a motivational speaker, coach, and consultant for really this inclusion and accessibility. And so just basically making hearing businesses inclusive and how to be more deaf friendly for the deaf community. I'm also a professional dancer and entertainer. I'm a contortionist and I fly in the air and all the things. And I'm also a spiritual life coach and Reiki master practitioner. So like with all of these, just providing a beautiful force for the community that is so undeserved. Yeah, and I feel like there are times where we don't feel like we have a voice. There's a saying that I like to say personally. I'm a part of the community, but I'm also apart from the community. And so this is just kind of a way to bridge the gap between the deaf and hearing the communities. And that is my vision, of course, with this community. Yeah, and it's just providing that huge, huge, huge voice for them. And my vision with this, in addition to the bridging the gap between the communities and just world peace. I mean, just be kind to each other. And we all want that. And with artists, we have like so much going on in our head, and it's just like, we got to share this vision, you got to share this perseverance, because no matter what you do, you're going to persevere. And just, I could just blabber on all day. Me, a motivational speaker, I just be like, bah, 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 bah. So thank you again for being a part of it. And I'm grateful to be here. And I really look forward to working with all of you in terms of inclusion, accessibility, and diversity. All right, pick. Thank you, Thomas. Let's see. Oh man, so many beautiful faces here. Let's go with Sean Dunwoody.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? Good morning. Is it morning? I don't know. It's early for me. It's night. It might be nighttime in my world. It's a late night for me. I want to say thank you all for being part of this committee to form the commission. I want to thank you for being part of that. And when we were when the three of us were asked, Thomas and Annette were asked about this, we wanted to. I might be jumping the gun on this, but the reason why I wanted to be part of this committee to get the commission going is because the focus, the number one focus that we talked about was diversifying it, meaning our focus is not on old white dudes, okay? It just can't be like that no more. All right, we look, and I'm just keeping it real because that's somebody got to tell the truth. For too long in the creative community, which extends from culinary arts to everything else, we focused in on one particular group, and we realized that this forward-moving commission cannot look at that. As Annette said earlier about the whole county, we do want to reach out to the whole county, but initially this focus was about the city, and if your city is brown, you need to be looking at brown arts. And so that's really where we wanted to find our core strength in this focus. And so that's why I joined and was happy to be part of this committee to get this commission going. So I'm done running my mouth. And with that, I'm gonna toss the mic to, did I just see somebody? Wait a minute, somebody jumped off of this damn thing. Oh, Rena, I'm gonna toss it over to you. Go ahead.
Peace, everyone. Good to see so many of y'all up in here. God, like this is a great way to start a Monday. I have to say that. Just seeing so many creative and beautiful people in the space. I'm Rena Golden. I am the founder and artistic director of the Avenue Black Box Theater. I am also newly adjunct faculty at University of Rochester International Theater Department. So I can add that to, you know, some of my monikers and everything. And, you know, like Annette said, many other things, you know, that we do, so many of us do in this community, but I won't start going down that list. Those are my main two gigs right now. And why I joined this commission, I think, for me, you know, it's mainly because I believe in its ability to support the work that I have been doing in this community in collaboration with so many of you. There's so much work to be done in so many different ways, you know, to kind of get at it. But I do believe in art, you know, and creative innovation. I believe artists are the chosen ones. But I do believe that there are voices missing, you know, and there's something that needs to be, we're in a particularly unique time and opportunity to do something about that in real time. We've been taking really small baby steps for so long, you know, and getting knocked back, you know, and folks saying they get it, but then they do something different, you know, a lot of talk, a lot of lip service. But I believe that one of the things that we're seeing, especially in this pandemic and in this particular, you know, climate of, you know, the movement, you know, for really pushing forward on that equity front, pushing forward on that anti-racist front, you know, pushing forward on really reversing and repairing some of the damage that has been done in our community, in our world. I believe that this is the time is now. So I think that with this commission and with all of y'all, we can have an equitable, robust, thriving, inclusive arts ecosystem that honors all voices and forms of creativity in our city, and most importantly, make sure that we are giving actually serving and giving that to our community. And like Sean said, specifically the community that most of us actually and our work should be residing in, which is a very Black and very brown and very beautiful community. So that's what I'm here for, and I'm so happy to see all of y'all here, you know, ready to do this work. Let's go, let's get it. And I'm gonna pass it to Nydia, my beautiful sister. Nydia, get in there.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rena, my beautiful love, my sister. You are like the goddess of the goddesses. First, my name is Nydia Padilla Rodriguez, and I am the founder of Borinquen Dance Theater, and I'm hoping to celebrate 40 years this November 6th. So I'm hoping all of you will help support us in any shape or form. Why did I get involved? I think when Annette brought it to my attention, I have to admit that I was a little resistant in the beginning because I have been involved with so many different committees and commissions, and in the city of Rochester being involved for so long, and then finding that these commissions don't go anywhere. So I'm going to be honest, I was a little hesitant. But then when I saw that the folks that were going to be involved, I want to take a chance to help support the vision of this commission, because I do believe it's time. There's so much going on in our community that I'm hoping that this commission can really help close the wealth gap among arts and people of color. And when I talk about the wealth gap, I'm talking more about how to get more funding, contracts, and a way to just break down those barriers with our Black and brown folk. That's where I'm coming from, to be honest with you. It's nice to be on a commission, but I think it's timely that we really need to focus on this wealth gap that exists in our community. With all the violence that's going on, and I mean, if it's not evident that our kids are starving for a solution, then we are part of the problem. And I don't want to be part of the problem. I really want to be part of a solution. So I'm hoping that we can move in that direction with this commission. I do believe that we do function in silos. While I understand that there should be a focus on the city, I'm also hoping that maybe we can include the county, because the county also has some major funding, folks. We all know that. So I'd like to see the city and the county build the coalition and the collaboration to begin to really address this wealth gap. So it's not just serving as a volunteer. Let's see what we can do to build the economic status of what's going on in our community in the arts industry. I guess that's all I have to say. Oh, I do want to share one thing too. I do believe that it's important for us to bring the diversity, because I do believe that we need to focus on diversity. And one of the challenges that Borinquen Dance Theater has faced is because of the name of our group. It's considered ethnic, which is, I'm very proud of that. I will never, ever deny the fact that Borinquen exists, because I want to educate the community about the Puerto Rican culture, who we are as a people and how unique we are as a people. And the fact is that we have the African, we have the Taino Arawak, we have the Spanish influences. So we come in all colors, and we're very proud of that. Many people are not aware of that. So when we perform in the community and outside of Rochester, it's amazing when people actually don't understand that Puerto Ricans are citizens. It's amazing when people don't understand that the original name of the island of Puerto Rico is Borinquen. And that's because history. How do we educate our kids? When Thomas talked about unlearning and learning new history. Tom, where are you, Tom? I'm trying to find, there you go. That's what I'm all about. Trying to teach our kids to feel proud of who you are, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your race. And I'm hoping that this commission will help promote that kind of vision and embrace diversity to the fullest. And my focus has been always with youth. So thank you all, and I appreciate being part of this unique, diverse group. I'm gonna pass it on to someone I don't know. Sarah.
My name is Sarah Scott. I work with the City of Rochester's Department of Recreation and Human Services. I am not an artist, but I am an admirer of artists. Our department oversees the Rock Paint Youth Mural Arts Program and the Peculiar Asphalt Summer Mural Arts Program. And I have the honor of working with Justin Suarez, Sarah Rutherford, and Brittany Williams to oversee that program. And we have a bunch of really talented youth artists that are doing a lot of good work in rec centers, libraries, and out in the community, specifically currently at City Rec Center basketball courts, but we're looking to expand that out to other public spaces. I also help oversee our park activation and stewardship, so I'm very interested in looking at partnerships between local artists and things we can do in city parks, and bringing art into park projects and bringing more public art into the public realm where folks can interact. So especially looking at the skate park, which I also oversee, looking at Rock the Riverway and some of those really public, beautiful spaces where the city is investing a lot of energy and money into bringing folks to the river, and how we can bring art to those spaces so that people can interact with art without having to go into institutions. I'm going to toss it to, let's see, someone I don't know. How about Amanda?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda, and as long as we are talking about equity and accessibility, my pronouns are they, them. I am an artist curator. I currently work as an educator at SUNY Geneseo and at St. John Fisher College. And I am part of Rock Arts United, which is a ad hoc group of folks working on behalf of artists, individual artists and small art organizations. I'm really hoping to see from this group, I think, a better connection between the city and the arts that exist here, a better awareness of the arts and their economic impact and importance, a better awareness of how arts impact things like graduation rates in Rochester, and then a way to find equitable support for the organizations, especially the smaller organizations and the individual artists in the area who are already doing the really important work of supporting the city. Oh, and I need to pass it to someone. Orlando, have you gone yet?
I did already.
You did already. We're getting down to the end of the list.
Put your hands up if you have not spoken and introduced yourselves. So,
oh, look, there's a whole second page of people. Look at all those people. Let's go with Niall.
Thanks. Good morning. My name is Niall Blunt. I am the Director of Academic Programs at the Memorial Art Gallery. I said yes to joining this committee because I am very new to Rochester and very new to my job at the MAG. I arrived in September of last year. And so I am very interested in getting to know some of all of the people who make up the arts and cultural landscape of the city. And I'm so pleased to be hearing about the work that everyone's doing. And my hope is, my vision for this group is to see greater collaboration amongst arts and cultural organizations in the city, closer collaboration, and all of us working together towards a shared mission. So thank you for all of the wonderful notes in the chat of welcome. I appreciate that. I will choose to go next, Holly.
Thank you. Yes, good morning. So my name is Holly Barrett. I'm a city engineer for the city of Rochester. I'm very excited to be on this committee. One of the reasons is I've been at the city for over 10 years. I'm a structural engineer by trade. And what I do at the city is I build the things. And one of the biggest frustrations, but I'm also a very big lover of art. I actually have a 2-year associate's in art. It's something that I love very much. And it's been a tremendous source of frustration that we've had a lot of opportunity to incorporate art into our projects, but we haven't had a mechanism to do so in a way that I think reaches the whole art community and really does all the things that we speak of today. It's just as a side note, just based on a lot of what we've been talking about today, when I first started working at the city, my boss said to me that my boss at the time, who is no longer my boss, he's not at the city anymore. He said, you know, Holly, it's not art if it's not a guy on a horse. And if there's anything that, and he was very serious about that comment. So I don't think no one's making this up. When we talk about the blinders on for a specific kind of, it was very disturbing. So, you know, all of the different kinds of art, all of the different equity issues, all of that the idea that we can pull all of that in that I, as the city engineer who builds the things, has a mechanism to reach out to that resource and say, we're implementing this huge project. We want to put art. Who do I need a group to come together, figure out what we're going to build, tell me what to build, and I will be here ready to build it. So we have projects even right now with funding associated with them. And I'm very much hoping this group will tell me how to spend that money.
We will. We will. We will.
I really think it's the lack of, cohesion, right? So there's all these folks out here that want to do the thing. I have the funds to do the thing.
We want you.
Yeah. So, I'm here 1,000%. I'm super excited about this. And just one last thing, as a structural engineer, my particular passion for art is structural. I just love big, heavy steel things. I maybe just because I used to be a bridge engineer, I don't know. So thank you very much for letting me be a part of this team. And I look forward to working with every person here. So, Kevin.
Thank you, Holly. And actually, before I go introduce myself anymore, I have somebody in the waiting room with a name I don't recognize. So I just want to check in with the three co-chairs. Is there anybody else that reached out to you, said that they were going to have somebody come in their place, or?
This is Lauren, one of the interpreters. She is actually switching out one of the interpreters, so she's coming for the second half.
Got it. Thank you so much, Lauren. All right. So we'll welcome Dawn to help interpret. Just 1 second.
Welcome to the world of the deaf, y'all. Just wanted to say that.
Yes. Welcome, Dawn. We're glad you could join us to help with interpreting. And my name's Kevin Kelly. I work for the city of Rochester. I'm in the planning office. And I and my team worked on the recent comprehensive plan called Rochester 2034, which was adopted in 2019. Excited to be part of that. I've also been part of the Rock the Riverway team with Sean and others, and been part of the Arts in the Loop group that's been going for a couple of years. I'm not a professional artist, but I'm a woodworker, and I'm also a drummer. So I dabble in the arts as a hobbyist, but I'm also passionate supporter of the arts. It's really important to our community. One of the reasons why I got involved with this is when our team was working on Rochester 2034, the comprehensive plan, and which is sort of a strategic plan for our community, and really meeting with a lot of folks in the community to hear about what's important to them. And we heard from so many folks, one, that they love the artistic presence that we have in Rochester, but two, a lot of folks talked about how they want to see more and how important it is to them. And they wanted to see that it's better organized and get the word out better about, what's happening in the community, and to see that artist community thrive and become more diverse and supported. So I heard a lot of that from the community during that process. So I personally want to be a part of helping make that happen. No single one of us or single organization involved here can make that happen. It's only going to happen by all of us collaborating. So I really want to be a part of that. And I guess my vision, or I'll just say one element of my vision that I want to mention is that I think of local artists and creative folks that are starting out and they're not sure if they can make a living as an artist in this community. And I just hope in the not too distant future that more and more of those folks can see that they can make a living because we're finding ways to support them better, in terms of infrastructure and in terms of just being better patrons of the arts and better coordination within the artist community. I want them to be plain to them, clear to them, that they can at least make it as a side hustle, if not a full-time gig to be their artist. Because if you're a creative person and you're not tapping into that part of yourself regularly, then it's a loss to yourself and it's a loss to the community. So I hope that we can gain some ground in that respect. With that, I will turn it over to, let's see who hasn't gone yet. Christina from the Yards, you haven't gone yet, right?
Correct, I haven't. Hi everyone, my name is Christina Kaiser. My pronouns are she, her. I am the director of the Yards, and I know a lot of faces in here. I'm just so thrilled and honored to be a part of this group. That's when I was asked to be a part of it. My answer was, absolutely yes, because it's just such an honor to be in the room with, so many people doing great work in our community. And with that, part of my vision and what I would hope would come out of this is, I think a lot of times we can work in silos, and I hope that I echo many of the hopes of collaboration. I just really think that we're stronger together. So I look forward to being able to work closely with all of you and hopefully make some changes happen. Thank you. Oh, who hasn't gone yet? Dan, you're next.
Dan Schneiderman, co-chair of Maker Faire Rochester. By day, I work part-time for Make, and I also recently started at the Rochester Museum and Science Center as the Eclipse Partnership Coordinator, preparing Rochester for the 2024 total solar eclipse, for which is going to have a massive art impact. I have some very large art projects I have in mind, and the arts are like way up there as part of my plan for Rochester and celebrating 2024. I guess kind of, and on the side, I do a lot of hands-on art activities, a lot at festivals, a lot of interactive art. I think my favorite experiences have been at the Central Library or on Parcel 5 during the Fringe Festival, just doing all sorts of hands-on activities with the community. I guess my big reason why is because I love working to inspire and support that next generation, convincing people that anyone can become a part of the arts. The art doesn't have to be up on a wall, but you can touch the art. I really love getting hands-on. Anyone can contribute. One of my favorite phrases is that community makes art, art makes community. And that we can do so much together. I also just really want to see some of those new arts get incorporated between projection, light. I love the immersive art experiences. It's a crazy cool world that we have here in Rochester, and I think we have one of the strongest art communities out there. From here, I'm going to pass it off. I'm going to see to Chris.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's great to see you all. I'm Chris Minelli. I use he, him pronouns. And I'm the executive director at Jiva Theater Center. Though I'm also an artist, I'm a musician, and I started out as an actor and a musician many, many years ago. But I'm really so honored to be with this group. And, I said yes, because we have talked about how we connect and how we connect the arts to the city in lots of ways. And this was a chance to do the work, right? This was a chance to get in there and to be part of making that happen. And so I'm thrilled to do that. Vision-wise, you know, I think we have an opportunity here. We have some momentum to create more opportunity for everyone in this city. And I think we have an opportunity to help heal this city in some ways through the art that we create. And so I think that's out there, and it's just going to be pretty exciting to come up with a collective vision for all of that. So thanks again. It's great to see y'all, and great to meet some of you who I don't know yet. So, and with that, I'll pass it off to Bree.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Bree Harrison. I'm from the Rochester Public Library, but Johanna Brennan and myself are two of the original members of the 2007 City Arts team, of which several of you are also were members way back when. We're hoping just to provide the two of us some support and institutional history on the original arts ordinance, and we are both very desperate to see everything that everyone has described and more, and to have it be a completed, functioning, and transparent process. And since Johanna is our wonderful city attorney person, I'll let her go next.
Hello, everybody. As Bree said, I'm an attorney with the city of Rochester. Been there many years. And as Nadia pointed out, sometimes when you've been around for a long time, you can get very frustrated with things that you got very involved in and then went nowhere. And as Bree said, she and I were on this committee that attempted to draft an arts policy probably 10 more years ago. Never went anywhere, but it might be a good starting place for us. I got involved in arts with the city at the very boring end of the spectrum, and that's contracts for artists. And initially with Art Walk, I worked on a lot of contracts and learned about artists' rights and the law related to that, and hope that I can help with some of that going forward. I've been able to do a couple more fun things. I've actually been on a couple of art juries at currently with the Brooks Landing project. So I'm just very excited to help you all wherever I can with this project, and look forward to meeting all of you. Bye-bye. And who's left? Anybody? Oh, Christina, are you still there?
Yes, yep. I'm still here.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Christina Hilaganthaler. I'm the principal staff assistant with the city of Rochester, and my current role is the capital analyst for the budget office, which I think is why Kevin invited me here. So I think my piece of the group's vision is just helping flesh out like a sustainable, accessible funding source for the work that this group is going to coordinate. Anyone left? Justin, did you introduce yourself?
No, I haven't yet. Thanks, Christina. Well, first, I just want to express my gratitude. You know, really kind of up and down the line. You know, Mayor Warren, you know, reached out, you know, as it relates to the equity and recovery agenda to me, to say, hey, can you, you know, work with our internal city team as it relates to this effort? And, you know, I was grateful for her, you know, to do that in my role as communications director for the city. And then equally grateful, you know, when I made the initial outreach to, you know, to Thomas, Annette, and Sean, who I've had the pleasure of speaking with briefly and working together briefly on some things in the past, to kind of say, hey, how can you help me? You know, somebody who's not an artist and not really linked to the community to the degree I would like to bring, you know, to bring a group together and help, you know, move this effort forward. So now that gratitude extends to all of you who are here today. Really appreciate you taking the time to make this effort a reality. You know, my goals for this, I'm a very pragmatic person. You know, I think we need to be intentional about the change that you've all mentioned here today. And that means creating the structure necessary to make it happen, right? And that means, you know, eventually, you know, coming up with the RFP, you know, pulling together a group to help us create the language necessary, you know, legally, as well as, you know, in terms of communicating to the community, to create a commission. And then, as Christina mentioned, you know, how do we use the 1% for the arts that exists? How do we modify that legislation to support all artists? One of the things, you know, it's very important to me in this is that, you know, I love Holly saying she loves structural art. I do too, from my engineering past, and then also, but how do we support what I would call performance art or more temporary art, and make sure that really what happens with the Arts Equity Fund and the funding sources can be used, not just on the big capital projects, but all the way through temporary installations, performance art. Make sure that the funding source we create, and that'll be administered by the Arts Commission, really can support the full diversity of art that we have in this community. So my gratitude to you all. Certainly, I see my role in this effort as kind of air support. Really like to step back, and when there's issues that need to be addressed, to bring them to the attention of the mayor's office, to work with city council, and to continue to move this project forward. So thank you all again. And I believe I was the last one to introduce myself. Did I miss anybody? I'll turn it back over to Kevin to move us forward.
Thanks, Justin. I think we got everybody, but please raise your hand if I missed. No, okay, great. Thanks for that. Thank you to our co-chairs for helping organizing all these folks, and for my city colleagues for joining us here. And I just want to mention just real basics about the sort of the structure of this. So we have this great collection of artists representing lots of diverse folks and genres and that sort of thing. But then we have 5 or so city staff that are going to be part of this. So technically we're sort of staff to the committee. So we're going to be participating throughout and assisting, so that you guys are as artists, you're the dreamers, you're the visionaries, and you're also a really great connection to the broader arts community for us. And we want to help along the way to figure out how to get things done. There's not an endless pot of money, and nor is there an endless number of bodies to work on things, but we want to commit to that we'll do the best that we can to make some forward progress on this. So staff from multiple departments are here because all these arts issues touch on multiple departments. So we'll do our best to help with coordination around that. So just to give you a little bit more context about what this group is and where it's going, and hopefully you had a chance to read through that one pager, just sort of summarizing the purpose and what this group's all about and what we're being tasked with. But I want to kind of pull it back to what came out of the Rochester 2034 comprehensive plan that we worked on. And I think one of the things that really got illuminated is, and I think some of you have spoken to this, is that we have what seems to be kind of an outsized arts community in Rochester. It seems bigger and more robust than than the size of the city itself or the size of the region itself. It's really amazing. And I've heard from people that have visited here that said, this seems out of proportion with the size of your city. So that's great. But I think what we've struggled with for a long time is sort of around the organizational capacity of things. We have the artists here, but it's how are they organized? How are they advocated for? How do they figure into city decisions? So we're lacking on the city side. We'll straight up own that. And we want this effort to help fix that issue. But I think in the broader community, there's a struggle around capacity. And as some of you know, the Arts and Cultural Council is effectively dissolved. So, this group might be part of figuring out what replaces it or what fills in some of those voids. And I know that, Amanda and her group with Rock Arts United are doing a lot of great things, and there's the Arts in the Loop, and there's other organizations. And I think collectively, if we bring all those groups together, we can find a path forward to better support artists in this community and build that side of our economy. And I mentioned Arts in the Loop, and Jim Dozer and his group have done a lot of great work around looking to other cities and what are some lessons learned from other cities. And I think, it's pretty clear other cities like Pittsburgh, Minneapolis that are really well organized, what they have is some sort of coordinating organization, typically outside of their city hall, but partnering with city hall, that does great things to serve local creatives, like training and workshops, networking, figuring out how to develop your business, pooling resources, that sort of thing. They have those organizations to support artists, and that organization is also a really effective advocate for the arts community. That's something that is missing here, or at least needs to improve. And then that organization can also really help inform the city's investments and the city's policies around the arts. So we hope that at the other end of this, we're going to have a better organization and a better structure in that respect. So the Rochester 2034 Comprehensive Plan, as I mentioned, it has some specific strategies around addressing this. And so, we've got some ideas in place. We just need to advance them. And that includes advancing what was done before around the % for the Arts ordinance that Bree and Johanna mentioned. And they're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But also developing an arts master plan. That's something that this group is going to be tasked with being involved with. What that looks like exactly, we don't know yet. That's for sort of us to determine. So yeah, I just wanted to, make it clear that the mayor and the administration is really committed to addressing these needs, and that's why she, tasked Justin and I with working with Sean and Annette and Thomas to create this Arts and Creative Committee, Community Committee, which we call the AC3. So hopefully we can accomplish a lot as a team, and we'll talk more later about logistics of how often we're going to meet and that sort of thing. But I wanted to real quick go through that purpose document that was sent around to you to go in a little bit more detail of what we're being tasked with. So the three main things that we're going to be focused on, as I said, that Arts Master Plan, and we talked about this with the three co-chairs, and we tentatively gave it a new name because Arts Master Plan is just very generic. We thought of the Creative Community Empowerment Plan. So that's our working title for a plan to be developed. I'll get into that a little bit more later. And through that plan, our goal is to develop the sort of the structure and the mission of a more permanent city arts commission. So it's almost like this AC3 committee is a prequel to a city arts commission. It won't look exactly like this in the future, but we're going to do that. We're going to lay the foundation for that arts commission. And then the third thing that this committee is going to be focused on is guidance of city investments. So as Justin mentioned, and as the mayor talked about in her State of the City this year, about establishing an arts equity fund, or the AEF. Arts Equity Fund is going to be investing in lots of different ways throughout the community. It's going to be funded by money coming out of development projects. But eventually the commission will sort of manage that and figure out how to spend that money. But in the interim, that's you guys. That's the AC3. Like Holly said, there's even projects right now where we need some guidance on how we can incorporate some really great public art into some of those projects. So you all will help in that process. And as someone mentioned earlier, just want to point out that right now, the geographic purview of this committee is the city, but we all agree that we need to find a way to get the county involved somehow, and even the state. There's important state agencies that can be partners here. So, what that looks like exactly yet, we don't know, but we are going to make some efforts, and we welcome you to partner with us on that to reach out to folks in the county, and that works for the county, and others have great connections to get them involved somehow, but we certainly have a focus on the city. And of course, when it comes to the Arts Equity Fund, that's being funded by city projects and city taxpayer dollars. So those projects are going to be located in the city. So I hope that gives you a good sense of the background, context of what we're looking at here. And one other important piece of that context, and I'll turn it over to Bree and Johanna here to talk about this, is some progress that we did make in the past. It didn't go as far as we wanted, but it is important to point out a little piece of that history and see how we can build from that and turn it into what we need here in 2021. So with that, Johanna and Bree, you can talk a little bit about that.
Johanna, do you want me to start? You okay? Hi, everyone. So I just want to mention very briefly that there are two distinct ordinances that were passed by City Council. They are in place, And as this committee moves forward, there will be the need to actually make changes via amendment to the ordinance as we move forward, because it is actually an ordinance that is in the books. The city has not fulfilled all the requirements of the ordinance, but it is law. And I'll just talk very quickly. And Kevin, is there going to be a shared folder? We can place the actual ordinance. I don't want anyone to think that you can't find these. They are from 2007 and 2009, but it's hard to parse through all of council legislation. So we'll place this somewhere so you can read this on your own. But I'll just do the briefest of brief updates on this. 2007 was really the brainchild of this committee that was originally formed. There were many members on it, Thomas, Blue, and I'm forgetting some others, probably those of you, Sean, I think, that were on this original committee. The ordinance was based on many other percent for art legislative pieces that existed. So the focus was really on art in the public realm, permanent art in the public realm. It talked a little bit about the idea of the city providing a report to city council. So the administration would report to council on expenditures, both with public art, but also for arts expenditures with respect to special events funding and other supportive arts activities. I believe this predated some of the Rock City murals and activities that Sarah Scott and Christina Hilaganthaler have done with city recreation. But the intention was there would be a report that would document all of those things. The problem was kind of a two-part. The legislation passed right before the Great Recession, which put all of the city's finances in a very difficult position to administer. In addition, the way the original arts legislation was structured said that for every project in the city's capital improvement program, which is a 5-year program that's published and is a public document, and there's a public hearing that comes up every spring. I encourage everyone to look at it. That for any city dollars for a project over $1 million, 1% of that funding would be allocated within that project budget or in addition to that project budget for an art installation at that location. It did not have to be a permanent art installation. The ordinance said 25% of all of these projects had to be a public art installation, but it could be enhancements or other activities, which again at the time was very similar to public art legislation, percent for art legislation that existed in other cities. The problem with that is for the city, there's all kinds of projects that happen with our water bureau, with roads, with other infrastructure. And the example I always give is that if we do a $2 million road resurfacing project at Mount Read, do we really want to put an installation on Mount Read Boulevard as defined by the boundaries of that? Or do we want to actually set aside money that can be put together for public art installations that are predetermined and agreed to by, for example, an arts commission on locations across the city for purposeful locations that make sense. And so the amending legislation, which happened in 2009, intended to do that. It said, we're going to take 1% of all the city's funding for projects, set it aside as a specific allocation that can be purposed, and that the city would be creating a arts policy that would help to dictate that, and an arts committee. And those latter two things are what really just didn't come together. So the legislation is in place. Kevin will place it up and please read through it. It's helpful. And again, I want to say this was really a brainchild of Lois Geis. For those of you who don't remember Lois, she was a city councilwoman and pushed really hard for this with the support of multiple administrations and council. So, the intent is there, but there wasn't an organization within the city and also involving the public and involving artists that really ever formed to finalize that process. So sorry to talk so much, but I hope that helps for the context. And again, just a reminder that as this moves forward, there will need to be potentially amending legislation for this ordinance, which the city is aware of and supports. Also, there may be other actions that need to happen with respect to the commission that may require some enabling legislation as well. So that's part of why Johanna is here. Johanna, did I miss anything?
You did a fine job, Bree.
I love you, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Bree. And yes, to your question, we can set up a shared folder in the cloud. Does anybody have any objections to using Google Docs where I've got all your email addresses and we can share documents and other information as needed within that folder. And looks like Blue, did you have a question?
Yeah, just quickly for Joanna or Bree, 1%, I've seen this legislation, I was never sure on this. So was it defined as 1% of the city's portion of support for a larger project? Or is it 1% of the total value, total expense of the overall project that the city contributed to? So is the 1% defined by the total budget or the small slice that the city supported?
It's defined by the city's allocation, which again, the legislation also said that if there are contributions that come from federal or state money, that could also support this activity. And that's something that the committee is going to have to discuss, because in some years, the city argued that the legislation was enacted in part because of activities like Art Walk, which was federally funded. And whether or not there's still an intention to keep a certain percentage. I think that's why the 2009 legislation is helpful, because it still sets aside funding from all projects in an allocation, but the city also considers things like enhancements to certain activities. Like for example, our library building is going to have masonry restored. If we're doing certain additional historic elements above and beyond the project, the city considers that part of the arts enhancement component. This committee will have to decide and discuss if that makes sense or not. But that, Blue, is the intention. And Olivia, you asked a question in the chat. There was an allocation set aside in the first year of the amended legislation, about $250,000. My understanding is that has been allocated towards various art installations over the past several years. I do not personally have an accounting of all of that, but I know that when the library asked if we could use some of it for an art installation that we are doing currently, that will be happening this summer at the corner of South and Broad, we were told the money had been allocated for prior projects, which again is why it's even more important that there is a component in an agency that helps to gather the reporting on this going forward so that we know where all of that funding is spent. So there is, Olivia, new money since I believe there are 2 cash capital, and Christina's on the call. I believe there have been 2 cycles of the city's capital improvement program up and through, not including this current year, where there has been cash capital set aside based on the interpretation the city has on the current ordinance for the value of 1% of city funds. I believe it was around $150,000 each year. It's not a huge amount, but if you were to look at the capital improvement program document, there is a specific allocation that lists percent for art or city public art, I believe it says. I will also emphasize that there are many projects going on with the city, Holly can talk to this, where there is funding that the project team determined they wanted to have included a public art installation above and beyond what was allocated in the Percent for Art program. One example of that is the Sister Cities Bridge and the, Holly, what's it called again? The whole, that section, that thing.
Charles Carroll Park and
Charles Carroll Park. Right. So some project teams can choose to do that. The library also did that with our current Rock the Riverway project. There was money set aside. Because some of that is state funding, we don't consider that a part of the Percent for Art program. So things are happening. But again, it comes down to our core problem of we're not communicating that in a way that makes it clear, and we're not demonstrating to you, artists, that this money is going to be consistent enough that you can start to scale work and start to create the economic infrastructure to know that this is going to be sustainable in the long term. I'm just going to check chat. Were there any other questions? Does that answer your question, Olivia? Okay.
I have a question. So I guess I'm wondering what is currently in place for us to be able to track this. Like I just heard you mention that there might have been $250,000. Not really sure where all of that ended up going. And also kind of moving forward, I'm also interested in how do we know when there is a 1% coming in from somewhere? What are how might we track, these projects, and then also, moving forward, kind of having that. I know we would be looking at having that running list of here are some of the projects where we ultimately will want those funds to go. But it seems like there's we will be chasing the dog a little bit, you know, if we don't know where it's like, we can't capture where it's coming from, and then also, you know, what's already there and what projects already exist and what those budgets were and what the 1% totals, you know, amounts to.
Holly, did you want to say something?
I'd love to comment on that. I think that's an absolutely fantastic question, and it's a chicken and egg thing. And from where I sit, I perceive part of the problem being that the funding comes and we don't know what to do with it. And so it sits there for a long time, and then somebody might show up that has an idea, and so some of it might be used. Not a good system, right? So from where I sit, it would be great to have already a list of initiatives and people tied to those initiatives that are almost pre-approved, that everyone here has had those discussions, they think they're a great project. And then we start looking at the funding we have, seeing whether we have enough to do, you know, maybe they're even a prioritized list based on certain areas of the community, so we can make sure that we're hitting all the different quadrants of the city. And then if we have a mill and resurfacing project, you know, in the Northeast, or, you know, or the Southwest or something, we can make sure that the funding goes to predetermined art initiatives within that same community, but we already know what they are. Because otherwise, you know, and I think that's why this is so important. And I think we all, from the sounds of it, that there's been funding through the years, but connecting it to actual things are a thing. So in this, maybe one of the very first things we do is start identifying things that are ready to go, or particular, you know, again, me being the engineer, right? I have to implement the thing. Mm-hmm. You know, Northwest, I don't know, Beechwood community, whichever community, you know, through this art program, you know, give me something to build, or, you know, or to program, you know, through communications, you know, we talk about all the different kinds of art there is. So that's my thoughts.
And just, just to Holly's quick piece, the part that didn't come together was a city arts policy that would help to define what we consider to be the eligible activities and eligible projects, and then the commission or a committee of some sort that really established a master location, right? And also, just I'll be remiss to say that part of this also means that we would have an inventory of public art, because in some years, the requirement to maintain the structures we have. And the intention is that there will be some funding for that as well. And the ordinance says specifically that some of that funding can be and should be used to help maintain art in the public realm that we've already installed or that is already owned by the city.
Yeah, one of the things that we noticed a couple of years ago, and Annette Jimenez can also speak to this because she was at that meeting, was when we met with City Council about 5 or 7 years ago, we were shocked and surprised to see that the city did not have a line item in their city budget to identify where arts funding was being allocated. And I still think it speaks to Rena's question is, where is the money? And where is it going to if we're not tracking that? Because you're the way that the city does their budgets, it's an individual project or initiative, and then they get some arts funding allocated in there. But the city overall has not tracked it in any capacity. Annette, do you want to chime in? Am I missing any pieces?
No, I was going to say the same thing that Blue and I can attest, that we looked at the budgets of other cities and counties and how they fund arts. And there was definitely a lack of transparency and accountability in the city's budgets when it came to arts funding. I mean, this whole discussion is pointing out that it's difficult to find because it hasn't really been tracked or reported thus far. So because there was no arts commission or arts department or anything to do that tracking and put that in the budget and highlight that that's what it's for. So hopefully this can all help address that big issue as well.
And I want to
I just want to just add for a second, just meaning moving. I was really also talking about meaning moving forward. One of the things that would be helpful also is to know where these funds have already gone, so that we can start looking at an equity model for how to make sure that, because we know certain areas of the city have been left completely out of even consideration for some of these kinds of things, right? So we know where a large amount of our public art exists, in our city, right? So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't go back and say, like, as we start to move forward, say, here is where these monies went. Here are the things that actually have been funded. And so when we talk about prioritizing, we don't end up, continuing to inadvertently continuing to shift funds, into areas that really, there are more deserving areas that need to. That's the piece I'm interested in adding to that.
And I would love to just speak to that. In defense of us here at the city that implement the work, I don't think as much has actually been done as you think. From where I sit, it seems like a lot of the funds don't really get used at all, or we don't actually allocate the funds because we don't really have a mechanism for implementing a lot of work. So what I'm really interested in is saying, okay, now that we actually have a good mechanism to implement, let's refund this. I can honestly say that no one shows up at the door of my office saying, I have this money that we're going to secretly use to build something. So I think it's, while it certainly would be an interesting exercise to see what art we've implemented over the years. I know we have some things that are very specifically associated with, like, the Department of State grants that we do along the Riverway. I really would be interested to see, starting going forward, we infuse funds, we have this fantastic group. How do we distribute these funds? And how do we establish that criteria and make sure that it's distributed equitably and through all quadrants of the city? So I think that'd be a great way to spend our time.
Yeah, I think we can get there. And Rena, you definitely bring up some good questions about what's been done in the past, and the city staff on this call. We can put our heads together a little bit and see to what extent we can address that. But like Holly said, the critical piece is moving forward. What is the mechanism? What is the organization to get these things done? Because we've got projects already that need some guidance, and I think this group is really going to help with that. So Antoinette, I see you had your hand up. No, you're good? Okay.
No, I'm good. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's a deaf thing or whatever. We just like to wave our hands. I don't know. Don't mind me.
I thought I actually saw the emoji hand, but maybe it was an illusion.
Oh, no, it's a thumbs up clapping.
Okay,
going
cool.
for what Holly was saying, yes.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the name of the plan? You said it was the Creative Economic Empowerment Plan?
Sorry, where did I look at? The Creative Community Empowerment Plan is the working title.
Okay, I think like the word inclusive needs to be in there somewhere to address the equity part, especially since inclusive recovery is such a big push, getting, post-COVID, in our post-COVID world, and to address the equity that people are talking about as well. So I don't know, like creative and inclusive community economic empowerment plan, but I just think it's important to include that.
I absolutely agree with Annette, because what does diversity really mean? Diversity is also part of inclusion. And yeah, so we can't have a diverse wide group of individuals like these wonderful people like you, but also inclusive, like feeling included, feeling heard, feeling like have a voice. So I can definitely piggyback to that. Thank you, Annette.
Yeah.
Does the city have a dashboard that can actually collect this kind of data?
No, not exactly. But I think that's something that our team is going to have to figure out now is how to be able to track that. It's going to be a critical part of this effort. So,
and I just want to state there are more pieces that we'll need to collect eventually, but for right now, the focus and the understanding is collecting just allocations and expenditures with respect to installations of public art, correct? Because I know there's a broader conversation, and the mayor's ERA talks about the idea of a fund that includes both performing arts and artists, other pieces. But for right now, just to start, I think, can we focus, there are other components, but I think it'll be the fastest and most relevant for the current moment to gather the pieces that have been done for art installations. Is that fair? I know there's still a need and a larger discussion about how the city tracks and does expenditures with respect to arts funding overall, but at least for the next iteration of this meeting, is it fair to say that we can focus on just the public installations? Is that all right?
I thought I heard Kevin say something about special event. Some of it it was permanent art and special events or something. So that might have been arts and entertainment related. That's the note I wrote. I'm not sure if I misheard it.
Go ahead. I was going to. Justin talked about this previously in one of our meetings, and I wanted him to be able to bring that up. This sort of funding stream.
Maybe it was Justin.
Sure, Sean. Thank you for that. I think really ultimately there's there's really three areas of funding that have existed. And there's what Holly mentioned, which is, hey, within a capital project, we're going to build a bridge, and on that bridge, we're gonna do some type of structural art, right? And there's actual dollars allocated within the overall project budget for that. So that's one source of funding. The second source of funding is kind of what the 1% ordinance. And I'm going to talk about how I believe the mayor envisions it, and versus kind of how it's operated in the past. Is, let's say that bridge is a $10 million project, right? 1% of that, right? So so basically $100,000 from that project budget is set aside beyond what's already been allocated for the physical art on the bridge for arts, right? And so those dollars can be used to fund other projects, whether that's performance art, whether that's additional structural art, what have you, and that will go into that pot of money. And then the third, element that's there that's pre-existing is what we spend within my department for special events, and that largely funds concerts, right, and cultural events, like the Puerto Rican Festival, like the Cary Fest, like the Course Street Reunion, a variety of events, both large and small throughout the year. So certainly on the special events side, like that's easily shown and allocated in terms of like what I can easily pull from my budget in terms of events we fund through that. That ultimately, to me, is kind of, will continue to be funded as is and won't take from the 1% or won't take from the capital projects. That'll be continue to exist as is. I certainly want this group, as we move forward more formally, to get involved and make sure, hey, are there things that we're missing as it relates to our special events and cultural funding that we can make use of? Those dollars are largely allocated to the same organizations every year, in similar dollar amounts, but that doesn't mean it has to be that way. So those are the three pots. And I think what we need to do going forward, and part of this effort is in the ultimate legislation that this group will help write, will be, the city shall, within its capital budget, right, demonstrate, in these large capital projects, what are the what elements are going to be included within those capital projects for public art. Beyond that, what is the 1% that comes off of all these projects that goes into the arts, what I will call the arts equity fund, right, the 1% for the arts. And then further, the last thing will be, the special events funding, and all those things will be, ultimately the Arts Commission and the Arts Master Plan will guide the distribution of those funds. Does that kind of make sense in a broad manner?
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Justin. And I think there's probably a lot more questions and thoughts about how this is going to function, and there'll be plenty of time in future meetings for us to get a bit more into the weeds on designing this thing, turning it into what we really want and need in this community. So we'll definitely have time set aside in future meetings for that. I just want to do a tech check-in on the time because we're close to noon, and I want to respect everybody's time and growling stomachs, right? But so I'm gonna just looking at the agenda, I'm gonna skip the piece that gets a little bit more into detail about the master plan. We'll talk about that at a future meeting because I think it's important to turn it back over to the co-chairs to talk about some next steps and anything else that the three of you wanted to make sure that we covered today.
I just want to say a few words, and then Annette can chime in with our next steps here. Give a little history, a background of how we formed this group. We went through a lot of names, a lot of people, and this isn't it. Okay, this is not it. I want everyone to know this is not it. We want to build this committee out. We will have subcommittees. We actually sort of looked at each one of you as activators. Were you active? How do you, and are you active in the city? How do you activate others? How do you inspire others? We first initially looked at, do you live in the city? And then we thought, if you practice, most of your work is in the city, that means you have a commitment. So we wanted to make sure that this pool of individuals were activators and are actually going to be positive and moving forward, and not really, as we all gather here, that we're looking for positive solutions to come up with something that will affect future artists 25, 45 years from now. And so having all of you at the table, it feels great. It's a great honor and privilege to have you all here. And we ask that you do speak your mind. You come up with great questions that you've been doing, because we're all trying to learn through this together. And I think this is where we need to sit, is that we're all learning together. And once we've come up with something that's a bit solid, that you go out and activate subgroups and get them involved, so that everyone in the city of Rochester can be connected and understand that we are really the city of the arts, despite your cultural, racial, social, economic breakdown. And that's where we are. So I just want to thank you all once again for joining us in this. And so Annette, if you want to just talk about some next steps there.
Yes, Sean, if you can also just reiterate a little bit more about what our expectations are of our advisory group. So it's a perfect segue into this next portion. Thank you, Sean.
Some of the expectations, we're asking you to really give a commitment to this committee. Once again, we're working together to build the commission. And some of us may not be on that next phase of the commission, and some of us may be. We don't know what that commission looks like, but we're working together. We're asking you for that commitment of time to actually build that commitment, so that the city can function and flow with an arts seat at the table that is permanently in place. And we don't no longer have to 20 years from now keep saying, we don't have any funding, we don't have any money. And that's really what we're asking for, is a true commitment from you to really move this forward and meeting as much as possible as we can, because we want to actually move this along quickly. I think in one of our initial meetings, we're looking at something toward, and Kevin, correct me, and Justin, correct me if I'm incorrect, we're looking at somewhere toward the end of the year of getting this wrapped up and in place and on the book. So we've got to move quickly and confidently to make things happen. So thank you very much once again, and I'll pass it over to Annette.
Yeah, and so with that, we're really going to be sending out a survey for dates. We are looking at once a month meeting in the larger context. But once we have identified the subcommittees, those subcommittees will meet independently and then report back. And just as Sean said, we're about real activism and engagement and really moving it forward. We have 7 to 9 months to complete this task. We're going to be organizing a governance subcommittee group, a community engagement group. We're going to perhaps even do a survey to garner a larger input, and then also even invite some of these other mid-sized cities to come and mentor us and share with us their resources. And then just as Thomas and Sean and I talked about yesterday, we're making this up as we go along, people. And so that really means that we need those voices to be engaged. And, if something doesn't feel right, then speak truth to it. And then we're going to work together to evolve and transform and change that. None of us have the answers, but we all have the commitment, the dedication, and the willingness to do the work. And that is our hope, that you will also join us in that. Thomas, do you want to make any closing comments here before we sort of wrap up?
Well,
thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Annette. Just a thank you to everybody. We are so grateful for your time, your energy, your creative thinking. I guess I didn't talk about my vision, but my vision really is this, right, that we're doing right now. My vision is that we do this, we lay this work so that the people coming after us do not have to do this. And we create for them something that is really equitable, real, and will support their creative work. And that's, to me, that's really very vital here. So I do appreciate you taking this time. And I think the questions that you raised are all valid. We need to be raising the questions because that's the only way we're going to get any answers or create answers and move forward. So we can't pretend something didn't happen. We do have to bring it to the forefront. We do have to work through the conflicts, the challenges, whatever else pops up. We have to work through it. We can't just put it under a rug or move it over to the side. We have to talk through it all. And we have to find solutions because it's not just about us, it's about everybody else as well. So thank you again. And Kevin, you're going to say goodbye to us, I guess. No?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more point too, and I'm sure others have been thinking about this, and that's, who else do we need to hear from? That question is always coming up. And obviously this is a limited group, and we need sort of a centralized committee that is of a manageable size so that we can have reasonable conversations. But there are so many other voices, so many other folks in the community and organizations in the community that are just as important. So we want to make sure that we're not missing those. So as I said earlier, really want to emphasize this whole committee and led by the chairs is going to be tasked with exactly how do we reach out to those folks. We can't create a Zoom with 100 people in it. That's not going to be effective. But are there one-on-ones? Are there stakeholder focus groups? Are there subcommittees? Are there pop-up events? You name it. Whatever you guys can come up with. Let's figure out a variety of ways as we get into needing to hear answers from the community and hear what's important to them, what to do next. What are the variety of ways that we can get out into the community, and you are all sort of deputized to help with that. So that's one of the things that we'll be talking about in the future is the variety of ways that we can hear from the broader arts and creative community. Anybody else have anything to add before we wrap things up? Okay, again, thank you to our interpreters for joining us today, and we'll arrange to have that in the future. And thank you to everyone for participating in this. This is really exciting to hear all these different perspectives and the passion that's in this virtual room. And I really can't wait for it to be not a virtual room and to see you all in person. Sometime in future months, we'll do that. So stay tuned for a survey about when we're going to meet and the days that are going to work best for everybody, and we'll see if we can work something out. And hope everybody has a great week. Take care.